Yes.
Okay, now this is my measurement. I've drafted it out. This is my chest line. This is my bust point. I'll label it as BP. This is my underbust. I'll label it as UB. And this is my waist. So what I did here was I took my darts. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches. If I divide it on both sides, it will be 3.5. So I added half inch around, which made it to be 4. So I draw from the chest line down to the waistline. Now what I'm going to do is, if you notice there are some bra cups, some bustiers you see that are very pointy. I don't want my bustier to be pointy, so I will come to this place and I will take half inch on the bust point and then under the bust point. Look at the half inch. I'm taking it here and then I'll take it here also. This is because I don't want my bustier to be pointy when I'm done with it. So now what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be inputting my darts. I'm going to be using 1 inch for the darts. 2 inch. That's each dart leg will have 1 inch. As you can see now, I will connect it to this line that I took from the bust point. I will connect it. So now the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be distributing. What I'm going to be using is 1.5. I'm going to be distributing it on both sides. So, and then here is smaller than here. So what you are putting here should be smaller than what you put here. What I'm going to be putting at the center part is 0.5, and then I'll put the 1 inch at the side. So just watch. I will put my 0.5 here, and then I'll come here and I'll put my 1 inch here. So I've distributed it evenly. And the next thing I'll do is I'll use my ruler to connect it back to the waistline. This side will not be straight, so when you're doing it, it's not straight. Don't be worried, it won't be straight. So the next thing I'll do now, I'll use my French cuff to connect this line to the bust point. So this is serving as my bust point now. This half inch I came down back. So I will use my marker to connect it like so. And then I'll also come to this side and also connect it to that line. So you can see. Now the next thing I'm going to be doing is, I don't want my cleavage showing when I sew this bustier. So I will come down by 6 inch from the shoulder. Depending on how you want it to show, you can come down by 7, but me, I don't want my cleavage showing. So I'll come down by 6, and then I'll mark that 6, and then I'll extend my dart to that 6 inches. So what I'll be doing is that on both sides, I'll be taking whatever I take here is going to determine how tight the bustier will be on my chest. So I'll be taking, if you can take 1 inch, you can take 1.5 depending on how tight you want it to be. But for this one, I'll be taking 1 inch on both sides. Also the same way I did for my dart leg. So I'll take 1 inch and 1 inch. Then I'll use a straight line to connect it. If you notice, I'm not connecting to the bust point. I went out by half and half, so that's where I'm connecting to. This is to make sure that my bustier is not pointy and sharp. So I'll connect it to this line like so, and to here too, like so. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be extending this 6 inches line also. I'm going to be extending it so that it will serve as a guide to me. Alright. So from here now, my bustier is almost ready. What I'm going to be doing next is I'm going to be inputting my measurement. I'm going to check how many inches do I have here. In total, I have 6.75. That's what I have. I have 6.75. So I'm going to check how many inches did I take out here. I took out 2 inches. This is a dart. We are going to eliminate it. Like, I'm going to take it out of my measurement. So I have to bring it back to this side. So I'll come here. Whenever you are marking, you are sewing and you take out any dart, you have to input it back. So I input my 2. This 2 is from this place. I take it back here because when I'm done, this is how it will be. I'm taking this out completely. So when I take it out, if I should leave it here, my measurement will be very small. So these 2 inches I took here, I'm also going to bring it back to this place. That's why this thing extended here. So now I'm going to extend this line to where these 2 inches stops. So this is what we have. Then I'm going to use my French curve to connect it. That's my new armhole now. This is my new armhole. So I'll connect it back to it. Yes. So for the bust area, I'm going to be inputting my measurement. The bust I'm using is 34. When you divide 34 by 8, what you have is 34 divided by 8. Divided by 4. 34 divided by 4 will be giving you 8.5. So I will mark my 8.5 here. This is my 8.5. Then I will come here. There's also a dot here. Let me mark it. All these things, I'm taking them out of my measurement. This is not part of it. So after measuring 34 divided by 4 will give us 8.5. Then I will come here and check what am I taking out here. As you see, it's 0.75. It's not up to 1 inch. So I'll come back here and input that 0.75. This is now my new measurement. Then I'll now input my seam allowance. But my seam allowance will be 1 inch. That is half on both sides. I'll put it. Then I will now put this seam allowance is for the dart. Take note, it's not for the side seam, it's for the dart. Because when I'm sewing, I'm going to be sewing with half inch to join them. So that's the half inch I input here. Then my seam allowance, I'll be taking 1 inch. So this is the 1 inch here. I have my 1 inch here. So let me explain again. My bust divided by 4 is 8.5. This is the 8.5. I check my dart. What am I taking? I'm taking out 0.75 and I put the 0.75 back. Then I'm going to be sewing my dart. I also have to consider that, which is 1 inch. I put it here. Then my sewing allowance by the side, the seam allowance for my side will be 1 inch, and here is it. Now I will come to the next thing. I will not take any measurement on the bust point. I'm going to the underbust now. My underbust is 28. The underbust I'm using is 28. So I will come here and then I will check. This is just like saying I'm covering this dart like this. This is what I have now. Let's do it this way to be more easier. So I've covered here now, and then I need to take 28. 28 divided by 4 will give us 7. So I will come and then I'll check my 7. Where is my 7? Here is my 7. I'll mark it. When I mark my 7, this dart I am covering, I'm going to be sewing it with 1 inch sewing allowance. So this is the 1 inch sewing allowance. Then I'm going to be leaving 1 inch seam allowance by the side, and this is it. So I don't know how many inches to leave. It might be 1.5, it might be 2, depending on how your customer wants the seam allowance to be inside. So this is where it will stop. Then I will now come to my waist. This is my underbust circumference is 28. I will now come to my waist. My waist is 27. My underbust circumference is 28. My waist is 27. So I will still close this dart to take that 27. And 27 divided by 4 will give us 6.75. This is my 6.75. I'm going to add the seam allowance for the dart, which is 1 inch, and here is it. Then I'll add 1 inch sewing allowance for the inside of my cloth, and here is it. So now what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be using a straight line to connect all these measurements together. So here is what I have. I told you at the bust point you don't need to measure anything. You just consider this and this and this. So now this is what I have. So from here now I'm going to be cutting it out. When I cut it out, I'm going to be showing you what we have. Okay, sorry, I want to make a sweetheart neck. So I will come down. I told you I don't want my cleavage showing, so I'll come down by 1 inch. You can decide to come down by 1.5 or 2, depending on how open you want your cleavage. But then I'll come down by 1 inch and I will mark it. When I mark it, I'll use my French curve to connect it back to this line. So this is what I'll be having. And then this sleeve, I'm not touching it. I'll leave it like that. But if you want to create a star, you can decide to go down a little to create a star, but I don't want to touch it, so I'll leave it this way. So now I'm going to be cutting it out. I'll cut my pattern out and then I'll show you how it is. Alright, as you can see, I've cut out my pattern. If you notice very well, this place I went out by half inch to make my bustier. You see it's not pointy. if not, they're supposed to come like this, but because I went out by ½ inch, it's not pointing. And then if you see from here already, you are seeing the space here. So the more space you give here, the more pronounced your bustier will be. So if you see now, when I join this, and then when I join it, and then I come and I put this in, it will, when I'm done sewing and I join it, you see it will align. This one you are seeing by the side, the sewing allowance. When I'm done joining and everything, it will align. So with this now, the next thing you are going to cut your gum stay, put your interfacing on your, you are going to first of all transfer it to your fabric. And if you know, we have all our seam allowance right here, so when you just place it on the fabric, you cut equal length and you are good to go. So this one you can decide to use the same fabric, or you can decide to use net or either chantilly lace or any other lace, and then you can decide to create a different style on your neck depending on what you want. You can decide to do an open neck, anything you want to do, you are free to do it with your pattern. That's that for the underbust tightening.